There are moments in life when your heart beats too fast, not because you're excited, but because you're overthinking. You're looking at your life, looking at your struggles, looking at your prayers that still seem unanswered, and something inside you starts whispering, maybe it won't work out. Maybe nothing is changing. Maybe God forgot about me. But today I came with a simple, gentle, powerful message straight from the heart of God. Relax, everything will come to you. Not because you're perfect, not because you've figured everything out, not because you're strong enough, but because He is faithful, because He is wise, because He knows the end before you even stepped into the beginning. You see, God doesn't need you to push the world to make something happen. He doesn't need you to stress, to panic, to lose sleep, or to live in fear. God doesn't respond to your anxiety. He responds to your trust. And sometimes the greatest sign of faith is not how loud you pray, not how hard you fight, not how many tears you cry, but how calmly you wait. God is telling someone today, stop trying to force what I already planned to give you. Because if you're forcing it, it's not from Him. If it drains your soul, it's not from Him. If it steals your peace, it's not from Him. What God sends will fit your spirit before it fits your hands. Relax, because the right opportunity is already timed. Relax, because the right relationship is already prepared. Relax, because the breakthrough you're worried about is already on its way. Relax, because what God has for you cannot be stolen, delayed, denied, or destroyed. Think about this. The birds don't panic, yet they eat every day. The flowers don't compete, yet they bloom in perfect beauty. The sun doesn't rush, yet it rises every single morning, right on time. God is saying you are worth more than all of these. So why are you afraid? Sometimes God slows things down not to punish you, but to protect you. Sometimes He holds things back not because you're unworthy, but because the wrong timing would damage what He has prepared. Sometimes He lets things fall apart so that the right things can fall into place. You may not see it now, but God is carefully aligning the pieces. He's removing what would harm you. He's preparing what will bless you. He's shaping you to carry what He is about to give you. All He needs you to do is let go of your fear, unclench your hands, lift your heart, and relax. Because when you relax, you stop fighting battles that aren't yours. When you relax, you stop trying to control outcomes God already settled. When you relax, you stop letting stress speak louder than Scripture. When you relax, you finally make room for God to move. Many times your blessing is not delayed. It's simply waiting for you to calm down and trust. Worry clogs the spiritual channel. Fear blocks the clarity of God's voice. Anxiety makes you chase things that were supposed to come to you naturally. And hear this clearly. What is meant for you will find you. What is yours will seek you. What God assigned to your name cannot leave you. You don't chase what God sends. You position yourself for it. You don't fight for what God promised. You receive it. You don't panic over what God controls. You rest in it. There's a blessing with your name on it, and it won't go to anyone else. There's a miracle shaped exactly for your situation. There's a door God carved in heaven with your destiny behind it. There's a season coming where everything makes sense, everything aligns, and everything flows. But it begins with one thing. Relax. Relax your mind. Relax your emotions. Relax your heart. Relax your expectations. Let God be God. He has never failed you before. He has never abandoned you. He has never forgotten you. He has never been late. And He's not about to start now. So breathe. Calm your spirit. Release your worry. Hold on to His promise. Because when God says relax, it means the battle is already won. It means the blessing is already prepared. It means the miracle is already sent. It means the answer is already delivered. It means everything will come to you exactly when heaven decides it's time. Trust that timing. Trust His plan. Trust His heart. And from this moment forward, walk with this confidence. If God said relax, then everything you're praying for is already on the way. When God whispers, relax, it is not a casual suggestion. It is a divine instruction rooted in the reality that He has already gone before you, already walked through the places you fear, already prepared the ground you will someday stand on. When He tells you to relax, He is telling you that the battle has shifted from your hands to His. And yet, As human beings, we often respond with worry, tension, and anxious thoughts because we cannot see what God is doing. We forget that just because we cannot trace his movement does not mean he is not moving. God works in realms hidden from our eyes, but never hidden from our lives. While you are pacing the floor, he is organizing the things that belong to your destiny. While you are wondering how things will work out, his hands are already arranging the outcome. So many times what feels like silence is actually the sound of God rearranging your future. When a door closes abruptly, you may panic, thinking something has gone wrong, but heaven sees what you cannot see. Heaven sees the betrayal he is protecting you from. Heaven sees the harm that would have wounded your spirit. Heaven sees the delay that would have robbed you of your joy. When God shuts a door, he does not do it to hurt you. He does it to guide you out of danger. And many times, the moments you call disappointment are the very moments God calls protection. You are not being pushed back. You are being redirected to something far better than you imagined. You may look at your situation right now and say, "But nothing is happening." That statement is only true from your perspective. In the unseen, everything is happening. God is aligning conversations you haven't heard yet, opportunities you haven't discovered yet, resources you haven't touched yet, and favor that hasn't manifested yet. You think you're waiting on God, but often God is waiting on the right moment. He works in perfect timing, not your timing, not the world's timing, not the enemy's timing. When things seem still, heaven is in motion. When you feel stuck, God is orchestrating a breakthrough that will make sense later. Your life is not random, and your journey is not chaotic. Even the detours you dislike are guided by his hand. Think of Joseph in the Old Testament, sold into slavery, forgotten in prison, misunderstood by his own family. Every step looked like disaster, but every step was actually positioning him. If Joseph had not been betrayed, he would not have been taken to Egypt. If he had not gone to Egypt, he would not have entered Pharaoh's palace. If he had not entered the palace, he would not have stepped into the destiny God designed. What looked like a breakdown was actually a divine setup. The same is true for you. Some of the things that hurt you the most were the very things that steered you toward your purpose. You thought you were losing, but God was shifting the board in your favor. Sometimes God delays because the blessing is not ready yet. Other times God delays because you are not ready yet. And often God delays because he wants to show you that you cannot make it happen in your own strength. It will happen only by his grace. When God tells you to relax, he is reminding you that the timeline of heaven is wiser than the timeline of earth. You have prayed for things that are already answered, but you have not yet seen the answer because it is still being shaped. The blessing is being refined. The people connected to it are being prepared. The environment that will support it is being built. Heaven is slow only to your understanding. It is always on schedule in its reality. The truth is, God is the only one who sees the whole picture. You see one chapter, he sees the entire book. You see today, he sees eternity. You see a closed door, he sees a doorway that will open at the perfect second. You see a setback, he sees a stepping stone. That is why he says, relax, not because the situation is easy, but because he already finished what you are worrying about. To him, your breakthrough is past tense. To you, it is still unfolding. Your job is not to control the outcome, but to trust the one who already wrote it. So do not interpret God's quietness as abandonment. Interpret it as a sign that he is working more deeply than you realize. Sometimes God hides his work so that your faith can grow. If you saw everything, you would not need trust. If you knew everything, you would not need prayer. God's invisibility is his way of training your spirit to depend on him, not on outward signs. when he tells you to relax, he is inviting you to step out of anxiety and step into assurance. He is reminding you that his ways are higher, his thoughts are larger, and his plans are stronger than anything the enemy has formed against you. There are blessings with your name engraved on them. There are doors heaven has prepared specifically for your footsteps. There are opportunities that will not open for anyone but you, and because they are yours, no one can block them, take them, or interfere with them. God is not improvising. He is executing a divine strategy tailor-made for your life, and every part of that strategy is moving, even now, even here, even in the silence. God's relax is not a comfort phrase. It is a declaration that the story is already written and the ending is already victorious. When God tells you to relax, he is not simply asking you to calm down. He is inviting you into a spiritual posture where your heart becomes a magnet for his blessings. Peace is not passive, it is powerful. Faith is not quiet, it is active. When you choose to rest in God rather than wrestle with your fears, you step into a realm where the supernatural begins to operate in your favor. Panic closes doors, but peace opens them. Anxiety blinds you, but trust clears your vision. When your spirit is at rest, your hands become open to receive what heaven is trying to send you. There is a deep spiritual principle that many people overlook. God does not pour blessings into a heart that is trembling in fear, not because he is unwilling, but because fear occupies the space where faith should be. Fear blocks the flow, but faith becomes the pipeline through which the blessings of God travel. When you panic, you suffocate your own expectation. When you worry, you interrupt your own breakthrough. But when you breathe and trust, you create spiritual alignment, an openness that allows God to move freely in your situation. Think of a storm at sea. Waves crash, winds howl, and the boat rocks violently. The disciples panicked because they saw the storm, but Jesus rested because he saw the Father. Many times in life, the storm is not the problem. It is your interpretation of the storm. You may think you are drowning, but heaven is completely calm about your situation. You are only afraid because you are looking at the waves instead of the one who controls them. The moment you shift your eyes from the chaos to the Creator, peace begins to fill the places where fear once lived. Some people pray with their mouths but doubt with their minds. They speak faith but live in worry. They ask God for change but behave as if God will fail them. But when you truly trust him, something shifts inside you. Your tone changes, your posture changes, your inner language changes. Suddenly you stop begging and start thanking. You stop striving and start believing. You stop reacting and start listening. This transformation opens the door to blessings that were always meant for you but required a peaceful heart to enter. God designed your spirit to be a vessel for his presence. But when that vessel is full of stress, anxiety, overthinking, and fear, there is no space for his glory to rest. Peace creates room. Trust creates capacity. Surrender creates space. When you surrender the urge to control everything, you allow God to control everything. It is this surrender, not weakness, not resignation, but holy surrender, that activates blessings waiting in the unseen realm. You do not attract blessings by chasing them. You attract them by being aligned with the one who commands them. The more frantic your spirit becomes, the more distant the blessing feels. But the more you quiet your mind, the more clearly you can hear God's whisper guiding you. Peace is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of God in the midst of them. Trust is not pretending everything is easy. It is knowing that nothing is impossible for the one who holds your life. When your heart is calm, you become sensitive to the voice of the Holy Spirit. You hear insights that anxiety would have drowned out. You receive ideas, directions, warnings, and encouragements that worry would have blocked. Anxiety makes your spirit noisy. Trust makes your spirit receptive. And when your spirit becomes receptive, heaven can deposit the very answers you've been praying for. Much of what you are waiting for is not being delayed. It is waiting for you to shift into a posture of peace. God has blessings prepared, but He waits for the moment you stop fighting with life and start flowing with His timing. Some breakthroughs are not held back by demons, but by your own internal storm. When you calm the storm within, the blessings around you begin to appear. This is why scriptures repeatedly tell you to be still, to rest, to trust, to fear not, to cast your cares on Him. These are not poetic lines. They are spiritual commands that create spiritual openings. God does not want you in anxiety, because anxiety is a language of the enemy. Faith is the language of heaven. When you choose faith, you enter heaven's frequency. When you choose peace, you align with God's movement. When you choose trust, you unlock answers faster than you imagined. Think of a flower. It does not force itself to bloom. It simply opens at the right time. It receives rain, receives sunlight, receives nourishment. It does not struggle, it receives. That is how blessings come when you trust God. They come naturally, without strain, without fear, without frantic energy. When your spirit is tense, you block your own spiritual bloom. But when you relax, you enter the state of receiving. People often think effort brings breakthroughs, but effort without trust brings exhaustion. Effort with anxiety brings burnout. Effort with fear brings confusion, but effort with peace becomes effortless. When your heart is peaceful, your steps become guided, your decisions become clearer, and your spirit becomes lighter. You begin to sense God's movement, and your life begins to flow in His timing. Peace is a prophetic declaration. I trust God more than my circumstances. Trust is a spiritual magnet. It pulls blessings toward you. When you relax in Him, you are not giving up. You are giving God permission to take over. And when God takes over, everything you've been chasing begins to come to you. There comes a moment in every believer's journey when God gently whispers, relax. Everything you're chasing will come to you in its appointed time. But for many, this is the most difficult instruction to obey. We live in a world that measures success by speed, schedules, and visible progress. When nothing seems to be moving, when doors appear sealed shut, when prayers feel like they are floating unanswered in the air, the natural instinct is to push harder, to fight more intensely, to do something, anything, to force the breakthrough. Yet God's strategy is often the opposite of human instinct. God asks us not to strive, but to sink into His presence, not to panic, but to trust, not to grasp for control, but to surrender the outcome entirely to Him. This kind of rest is not inactivity, it is spiritual maturity. It is faith grown strong enough to stand still even when everything around you demands motion. To relax in God is not laziness, it is spiritual confidence. It is the posture of someone who knows that the one who created time is never late, that the one who opens doors never allows the enemy to close them, and that the one who started your story will finish it with excellence. When you reach this place of surrender, you stop trying to control every variable of your life. You stop rehearsing your worries in your mind. You stop living in fear of the future. Instead, you begin to understand that God already has the solution before the problem even appears. The blessing is prepared before your need arises. The answer is written before your question forms. God doesn't react, He prepares. And because He prepares, you can rest. Relaxing in God means understanding that what is for you will never pass you by. Many believers live with the fear that if they do not constantly fight, they will miss what God has planned. But God is not fragile. His plans do not depend on your stress, your anxiety, or your exhaustion. You cannot ruin what God has ordained. When God decides that a season is your season, nothing can stop the blessing. Not people, not circumstances, not delays, not mistakes, not even the devil. But the blessing often requires your heart to be at peace before it arrives. God will not pour new wine into a shaking cup. He waits for you to become still, to quiet your inner storm, to trust that He is already working behind the scenes. This trust transforms your entire inner world. Suddenly, you stop comparing your life to others because you know God's timing for you is unique. Instead of looking at someone else's breakthrough and feeling forgotten, you begin to celebrate them genuinely because you know that your moment is coming as surely as theirs did. When God teaches you to relax, He teaches you not just patience, but also peace. He removes the pressure to perform and replaces it with the assurance that destiny cannot be rushed. He shows you that every waiting season is not punishment, but preparation. He grows your roots deep so that when the blessing comes, you can handle the weight of what He places in your hands. Relaxing in God also means letting go of the human tendency to overthink every future possibility. Many believers carry battles in their minds that God has already won for them. They fight imaginary scenarios, create fears that never happen, and lose sleep over things God has no intention of letting reach them. Worry steals energy, focus, joy, and spiritual clarity. It strangles your faith. But when God says, relax, He is inviting you to lay down every mental burden and walk freely, knowing that the God who holds tomorrow has already arranged the outcome. He needs you to walk in faith, not fear, in calmness, not chaos. There is a deep spiritual power in resting while you wait. Resting allows you to hear God more clearly. When your heart is anxious, His voice becomes harder to discern. Anxiety makes noise. Peace opens your ears. The more you relax in Him, the closer His presence feels. You begin to sense His guidance in everyday decisions. You begin to feel His reassurance in moments of uncertainty. You begin to recognize that He is not a distant God watching silently from the sky. He is a present Father walking with you step by step. Rest becomes the atmosphere where intimacy with God grows. Relaxation in God is also a weapon. The enemy's greatest desire is to see you overwhelmed, stressed, afraid, and defeated inside your own mind. But when he sees that you are no longer moved by delays, no longer shaken by obstacles, no longer intimidated by uncertainty, he loses his power over you. The enemy cannot control a believer who has learned to rest in God's sovereignty. When you relax, you cut off the enemy's ability to manipulate your emotions. You stop reacting to his lies and start standing on God's truth. Your peace becomes your shield. And when you finally step into this divine rest, something incredible happens. The things you chased begin chasing you. Blessings start finding you. Opportunities come toward you without you forcing them. Doors open effortlessly. Relationships align themselves. Answers come with clarity. Your steps are ordered without strain. Because when God decides the time is right, everything flows. Nothing needs to be pushed or manipulated. Everything comes together in a way so perfect that you know it could only be God. In the end, everything God has been whispering to your heart comes down to this simple truth. You are not alone, you are not forgotten, and you are not behind. God has already gone before you, preparing every blessing, every open door, every miracle, and every breakthrough you need. He is not asking you to fight for what is already yours. He is asking you to trust him enough to rest, to breathe, to release the weight you were never meant to carry. The God who formed you, the God who called you, the God who has walked with you through every valley, is the same God who is lining up your future in perfect order. Nothing is delayed, nothing is denied, nothing is wasted. When God says relax, everything will come to you. He is inviting you into a higher level of faith, a deeper level of peace, and a richer experience of His presence. This is not the rest of the world. This is the rest that comes from knowing who your Father is. As you wait, He strengthens you. As you trust, He aligns things for you. As you surrender, He moves in ways you cannot see. So step out of fear, step out of striving, and step into the quiet confidence that only God can give. Because what He has prepared for you is on the way, closer than you think, bigger than you imagined, and more beautiful than you prayed for. Relax. Your time is coming. Your blessing is coming. Your victory is coming. And when it arrives, you will say, it was worth the wait.